Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everyone. We are so glad you're here because today we are looking at a truly incredible musical journey.
Oh, it is. It's a fantastic story.
And I have to say, I'm loving the vibe in the studio today. The backdrop behind you visually shifted to this, like, dimly lit jazz club.
Right.
Yeah, complete with a vintage microphone, and I see a pair of glowing saxophones back there, too.
It definitely sets the mood for what we're getting into.
It really does. So, to give you all an overview of what we're looking at on the desk today, we've got an executive summary detailing the career of a rising jazz star.
Lakecia Benjamin.
Exactly. And alongside that, we have this really intriguing visual slide from Season 3 of the Saxophone Knowledge and Mastery podcast.
Yeah, episode 51, I think.
Right. And what's super cool about that slide is it notes their show was produced using open source tools.
Like Notebook LM.
Yeah, Notebook LM, Shotcut, GIMP, and the Pop.os Genu Linux operating system.
Which is such a specific and fascinating detail to include.
It is. And we'll get into why that matters later. But the mission today, the core theme here, is that this isn't your traditional story of classical training.
Far from it.
We're exploring how Lakecia Benjamin went from playing, like, street gigs at age 14 to becoming a Grammy-nominated alto saxophone titan.
A generational talent, really.
Exactly. It's about how blending raw street hustle with rigorous academic discipline creates that kind of talent.
Okay, let's unpack this, because her foundation is completely devoid of the traditional jazz path.
It really is. I mean, usually you picture a prodigy in a quiet conservatory practice room.
Yeah, totally.
But for her, it starts in Washington Heights in New York City.
Which is super vibrant.
Oh, absolutely. She's growing up immersed in Dominican rhythms. We're talking salsa, merengue, bachata, just spilling from windows and cars everywhere.
So it's not like she's sitting there studying sheet music. She's just living inside the groove.
Exactly. And get this, her first instrument wasn't even the saxophone.
Wait, really? What was it?
It was the grade school recorder. You mean like the little plastic ones we all played in fourth grade?
Yeah, exactly that. But it's actually a huge advantage. The recorder shares a very similar fingering system with the alto sax.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, so she's unknowingly building this spatial awareness for the horn. But by the time she reaches Eleanor Roosevelt Junior High, she's already writing songs and lyrics.
But she's not playing jazz yet, right?
Not at all. Her focus was entirely on local dance music, and the hustle was real. By age 14, she was gigging.
14?
Yeah, playing Latin dance music purely to support herself financially.
That's intense. I mean,
Yeah.
Playing for adults in a club at 14.
Right. And what's fascinating about that street-level survival gigging is that it instilled this fierce independence in her.
I bet.
Playing dance music early on, where you have to keep the crowd moving, it creates a magnetic live performer, you learn to project over noise.
It makes me think of, well, it's like learning a language through absolute street immersion, you know?
That's a great way to put it.
Rather than like sitting in a classroom memorizing grammar rules from a textbook, it's raw, it's functional, and the whole point is just to make people move.
Exactly. If the dancers stop moving, you don't get paid.
So true. But then she makes this massive pivot. She decides to audition for the Fiorello LaGuardia High School.
The famous Fame School.
Right. And having established this raw, street-level talent, this is where her playing-by-ear background collides with formal music education.
It's a huge turning point. So she goes into this audition, and she plays what she knows, which is Dominican rhythms.
And I'm assuming she nails it.
Oh, flawlessly. But the music director at the time, Bob Stewart, he stops her and basically says, "You're not playing jazz."
Ouch. Most kids would just pack up and run away crying.
Right. But her response was so audacious. She openly admitted she didn't know the genre, but insisted the school needed her anyway.
That is amazing confidence.
It really is, and Stewart saw that, so he hands her this homework list of absolute legends.
Like who?
Charlie Parker, Duke Ellington, Charles Mingus, and John Coltrane.
Okay, wait. Here's where it gets really interesting, because isn't it wild, maybe even risky, to essentially cram a century of jazz tradition overnight just to secure a spot in high school?
It sounds impossible, right?
I mean, bebop is like musical math. You can't just memorize it overnight.
Well, what's fascinating here is that she didn't have an untrained ear. Her ability to synthesize those complex improvisational frameworks so quickly speaks to her profound foundational ear training from Washington Heights.
Because salsa and bachata are so rhythmically complex.
Exactly. The syncopation is off the charts. So when she listened to Parker, she wasn't overwhelmed by the speed. Her brain was already wired for it.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, so she did this overnight self-study to absorb their phrasing, and she got in. She didn't lose her Latin roots. She just added a massive new vocabulary to her toolkit.
But then things get much harder, don't they?
Oh, definitely. She had to trade that freedom of playing by ear for rigorous sight reading, technical exercises, and complex harmonic theory.
It's like having to finally learn the grammar rules for the language you already speak fluently.
Perfect analogy. And she needed that theory, but theory alone doesn't pay the bills in the music industry.
Right. Which brings us to the next chapter. Bridging the two worlds. She had the raw energy. She got the theory at LaGuardia. But to survive, she needed a network and real-world adaptability.
So after a brief time at Rutgers, she transfers to the New School for Jazz and Contemporary Music in Manhattan.
Which puts her right in the center of the scene.
Exactly. And the mentors she had there were heavyweights. She studied under Gary Bartz, who really helped refine her technical approach to Coltrane and Parker.
Wow.
Yeah, and also Reggie Workman, Buster Williams, and Joe Chambers.
Those are absolute legends.
They are, and she used that environment for strategic networking, which led to her first big break with Clark Terry's Young Titans of Jazz big band.
But she didn't just stay in the jazz lane, right?
Not at all. She spent vital years as a sideman backing R&B, soul, and hip-hop royalty.
We're talking Stevie Wonder.
Alicia Keys, Macy Gray, The Roots.
That is an unbelievable resume. It's funny, kind of reminds me of like a brilliant indie film director intentionally taking a job as an assistant on a massive Hollywood blockbuster.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Like they're doing it entirely to learn the logistics, the pacing, and how to command a massive stage before they go back and make their own masterpiece.
That is a brilliant way to frame it. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, playing behind massive R&B and hip-hop stars gave her a few crucial things.
Like what?
Financial stability, for one, but also immense industry visibility. She learned the logistics of large-scale tours and how to adapt her sound across genres.
All while silently preparing to lead diverse audiences back into the acoustic jazz world.
Exactly. She was gathering the tools she needed for when she finally stepped into the spotlight as a band leader.
Which is the perfect transition. Because after years of supporting these legends, she takes everything, the Washington Heights grooves, the LaGuardia theory, the arena tours, and she synthesizes it all.
She forms Lakecia Benjamin and Soul Squad.
Soul Squad, I love that name.
And the whole point of that group was to intentionally blend her jazz training with funk, soul, and Latin rhythms.
So she releases Retox in 2012 and then Rise Up in 2018.
Right, and those records are known for pairing really complex horn arrangements with infectious, danceable grooves.
So what does this all mean for the listener? I mean, how difficult is it to maintain artistic credibility in the jazz world, which, let's be honest, is often seen as super purist, while making music that actually makes people want to get up and dance?
It is notoriously difficult. The purists often think if people are dancing, the music must not be intellectually serious.
Right.
But that is the hallmark of her genius. She honors the historical lineage without being trapped by it.
She proved you can do both.
Exactly. She bridges the gap, proving that technical excellence and crowd-moving energy are not mutually exclusive.
And she really proved her acoustic chops, too, didn't she?
Oh, without a doubt. In 2020, she had this critical acoustic breakthrough with the album Pursuance, the Coltranes.
And she worked with some of her past mentors on that one, right?
She did. Reggie Workman played on it, and also the legendary Ron Carter.
That immediately proves her place in the upper echelon of jazz.
It absolutely does. And she followed that up with her 2023 album, Phoenix, which received global acclaim and multiple Grammy nominations.
Just an incredible arc. But what I really love about her story, and this is our final chapter here, is how she's paying it forward.
Yes. Her work as an educator is so important.
Because mentors like Bob Stewart and Gary Bartz took a chance on her, she is using her platform to ensure the next generation gets the exact same opportunity.
She teaches at Jazz at Lincoln Center and Jazz House Kids. And her approach is unique because she doesn't just focus on saxophone mechanics.
Right, it's bigger than that.
She focuses on the cultural roots and historical lineage of the music.
And she's also doing amazing work with public schools.
Yeah, in 2020, she became a founding advisory board member for Jazz Empowers.
That's the group that brings jazz education and improvisation curriculums to schools that lack well-funded arts programs, right?
Exactly. She's making sure kids who grew up like she did have access to this art form. She even runs her own band as a mentorship vehicle.
Oh, that's cool. How so?
She explicitly hires younger artists to give them on-the-job training. She teaches them the emotional impact of performance, but also the gritty business side of the industry.
You know, remembering that image source from earlier, the one noting the open source Linux software, it makes me draw a parallel.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Lakecia's mentorship is almost like an open source software project.
Yeah.
She isn't hoarding her knowledge behind closed doors. She's actively distributing the code of jazz to underserved kids so they can build their own futures with it.
That is a fantastic analogy, and this raises an important question for all of us. What does the future of jazz look like when it is shaped by kids from diverse, non-traditional backgrounds who are finally given access to the right tools?
It's going to be incredible. That's what it's going to push the genre into entirely new places.
Absolutely.
So, to summarize Lakecia Benjamin's extraordinary arc, we are looking at a kid from Washington Heights who started out playing a plastic recorder to salsa beats.
And turned into a relentless student of the jazz greats.
Yeah, and finally evolved into a Grammy-nominated band leader and educator. It's a reminder to you listening to this that true mastery often requires embracing your unique roots rather than abandoning them.
She didn't succeed by trying to be a carbon copy of Charlie Parker.
Exactly. She succeeded by figuring out what Charlie Parker sounded like mixed with Washington Heights bachata.
Which is such a powerful lesson.
It really is. So we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today. If Lakecia Benjamin could redefine modern jazz precisely because she started with unconventional tools and local dance rhythms, what unconventional experiences from your own past might secretly be the exact foundation you need for your next big breakthrough?
That's a great question to think about.
Definitely something to explore on your own. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the sources. We loved exploring this with you, and we'll catch you next time.